let's start with the fuselage. Let's get this screw out of here. The fuselage comes with the floor installed. You have to take the gear struts. Move this over. You can see the gear struts have to be installed, and they glue into the top, 4 struts. And then I went in and glued along the bottom here, the bottom of the floor, as well as down here. And what I did before I glued, let me get something to point with here. Before I glued the struts to the bottom of the fuselage, I went around the outside and take painter's tape. Oh, you can see where I left a little bit on there, and sealed around those so that any of the epoxy, which is what I used to glue these in, if it started to leak down, it wouldn't make a mess underneath. And then once those are glued in, and I had the tube supports in first, I had to go back and sand the top of these struts flush to the floor. And that was about all the work I had to do to the fuselage. I did on the top here, I took a Dremel tool and a sanding disc and kind of took out a little bit of material here, because the pitch, or excuse me, the elevator ball length that extends out through this bracket was actually hitting on the bottom of the fuselage, so I ground out some of that so I'd have room for this ball length to clear. Because again, it shows that the distance of the fuselage is supposed to be 5 millimeters from this bracket, anti-rotation bracket, and the reason you want to get it that far back is so that you have your fuselage as far forward, the weight of your fuselage is far forward, and it helps with weight distribution that way. Alright, I'm going to put that out of the way for a second and look at some of the things we did to the mechanics. First thing is you have to install these height risers, and just 4 screws that go into your Trex frame. These are laminated plywood, and from what I read, some people had some problems with these laminations separating. So I took some material, actually a dryer sheet, and cut pieces of it and used epoxy to laminate all the way around on these risers, so that they, give them extra strength and wouldn't have to worry about them separating. Also, I wanted, again, to get the weight as far forward as possible, because this thing's really tail heavy. I added a piece of aluminum, 1-inch wide aluminum, an 1/8 inch thick, I think it's about 5 inches long, and screwed some screws through the existing battery tray, and also at the top put an additional screw, and then put hook and loop tape, and my battery's got the other opposite side of the tape, so you can just clip it on, and then I put a couple straps around here to hold it. But I wanted to add this for one thing, to add some weight to the front of it that I would need to balance, and this balance is perfect at this point, and then also for extra support of the battery, and to get the battery as far forward as possible. The other major things I had to do, this rear servo, this would be the elevator servo, it hits, you can see right there in that corner, it was hitting on the inside of the fuselage. So what I did is I sort of put this in at an angle so that the front of the back of the servo is on the inside, and the front of the servo is on the outside. It puts it in there at an angle. I hope you can see that. But this gives it room for the side of that fuselage to clear right there, so you don't have any rubbing. A lot of people were just mounting this servo all the way on the inside. I didn't like that idea particularly, because it would be so far over that it would be interfering with my wires of the pitch servo, and didn't like that idea much. And this worked out real well. It doesn't change the geometry at all of the ball links and control arm, so I think that's a good fix for that. The other major thing we had to do, let me zoom in a little bit here, is our rudder servo. Now I've got a Futaba 9657 in this jewel, or excuse me, 9257, and it was just too wide, you know, using the standard brackets for mounting this servo. It was just too wide, so I made these little aluminum brackets so that we could drop the servo down below the boom and keep it real narrow. And this is just little 1 inch, I think 1.25 inch angles what I started with, and you cut a couple strips and you know, drilled the holes in it for the bolts and mounted it underneath the boom like that. Works good. Also, you're going to need to fashion some type of control rod that'll fit up in the boom. In this case, I used golden rod, it's called, and this is a carbon fiber rod inside a sleeve, and I taped it with aluminum tape in the center to support, and this works really well. It's semi-flexible yet provides a rigid connection between your rudder servo and your tail. So I think that's about it. If I've missed anything, I'll come back and go over it, and we'll let you know. Alright, a couple things I failed to mention in the first part of this video. There are 2 canopy mounting arms, the original arms on the 450 Sport, these little jewels right here, that are attached right below the swash plate, and they're going to have to come out. They interfere with the fuselage, and you'll have to scrounge up a couple 2mm by 5mm screws to replace those arms with. Also, if you decide to do this tail servo modification where you drop it below the boom, and you're going to have to do it if you're using a large Futaba servo like I have. I don't know if the original DS420 will fit sideways in the fuselage or not. It's so much smaller than this, it might very well do the job that way, but I haven't tried it. But if you use this, so you drop it below the boom, you're going to have to reverse the control arm here, flip it onto the opposite side so it's in line with the boom, and when you do that, it's going to reverse the servo direction in your transmitter as well as in your gyro. So you need to make sure that you've got those set up correctly so that the tail is moving in the right direction before you try to fly this thing. Also, I took and mounted the mechanics back on my landing gear, my original landing gear, and took tie wraps around all 4 corners to secure it with, and test flew it before I put this into the fuselage to make sure that I had my gyro set right and no tail wag and all that good stuff. You know, make sure that my pitch slider was centered and everything was working correctly on the tail. So I think that pretty much covers everything. Follow the rest of this article below, and you'll see I took a bunch of photographs that hopefully are clearer than this video, and gave some written text notes that will help you with this build.